before. You may have seen her help facilitate meetings, but we've been training Ellie as Teresa's backup for a while now. And she frequently takes notes and minutes. And so just please be kind.
Absolutely. Okay, pull up the agenda here. Why don't I go ahead and call the meeting to order, and just note that Ron has temporarily appointed himself to the committee, and we have a quorum. First up would be, can you just do a roll call, Ellie?
Absolutely. Joyce Lynn,
Here.
Dr. Wilson, Dr. Pandolfi, Noel, Rita, here, Michelle, Ron.
Okay, thank you.
And I'm sorry to interrupt. Noelle just joined right as we were taking roll call.
Well, let's give her a second, and we'll say hi to Noelle as soon as she gets settled in. So.
And
Hi,
Ron,
hear me?
Ron stay on the committee, or
He gets
he can stay? Okay. Ron, we'll just have you stay on the committee for right now. Next up is approval of the agenda. If you've had a chance to look at it, there's really just one business item on there, which is the budget.
important.
Very important. So I'll take a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
Thank you, Rita. Do I have a second?
We'll need this from one of the people online.
So moved.
I
This
will
is-
second. Second.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. It's been moved and seconded. All those, any adjustments to the agenda? Okay. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstain? All right. Next up is the February minutes. Meeting minutes. I'll take a motion to approve the February meeting minutes.
I move to approve the minutes. This is Noel.
Thank you, Noel. I'll need a second.
I'll second.
Thanks, Rita.
Thanks, Rita. Thank you. Any discussion on the minutes? All right. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? I think any opposed? Any abstain? Okay. Okay, we're up to our number 5 on our agenda, which is the 2022-2023 personal budget recommendation.
And I can just take it off from here if you want.
Okay.
Okay, so in your in board docs, you should have a single sheet that kind of looks like this, and you can see it online as well. This is the information that we provide to the committee each year, and kind of walks through the personnel and related expenses for the library. What we'd like to do this year is go into a little bit more detail, just so that everybody understands, because we do have some newer members, and go into some detail about how these numbers are arrived, how they're calculated, what they mean, some of the assumptions that we have, and all of that. So this is the summary, and then we're going to go to a PowerPoint here in a second. And the PowerPoint actually is, I think, how many pages is it? I don't want to scare anybody.
20 some odd slides.
It's 20 some odd pages.
Make it go.
But what it is it basically takes each one of these lines and talks about the line, so that you understand what it is that you're looking at, how we calculated it. So I promise it will not be death by PowerPoint. It will be fun. So that is our proposal, and part of it is just to get you a little bit more comfortable with what it is that you're looking at and voting on. And this is sort of Ron's directive to kind of explain how we got here when we're talking about some of the traditional things that we do every year. So Cody, are you ready with that PowerPoint?
Yes, just a quick
Okay.
second, and I
Sure.
will have it pulled up.
And at this point, I'm going to shift it over to Jennifer. And Jennifer, I think I want you to take the lead on this, and I'll just chime in from time to time since you've been working with this so closely.
We should be good to go now.
Thank you.
Hi, everyone. We can go ahead and start with the first slide, Cody. We'll talk about the budget. And I wanted to start by sharing just what we do to prepare to get ready to do the personnel budget, data we collect. Finance provides us with the calculated revenue projection for the next fiscal year. Historically, we've used a 60% of revenue as the targeted amount for the personnel budget, so we calculate that. We look at historical data and we look at changes that we've made to facilities and services. The senior leadership team reviews staffing needs. We obtain a basic review, so like a labor market average of what has happened with pay year over year. In this case, the labor market has been a little bit more hot than in previous years. So
another thing that we look at this point is also things like mandatory minimum wage increase.
Correct, yes.
That would go into this calculation.
So the average weekly wage for March 2022 was up 5.6% over March 2021. And that's from the latest Bureau of Labor Statistics report. And then we obtain a report of salary data for the current employees and look at the status, determine the status of unfilled positions. So we'll dig in here, Cody, next slide. Okay, the top line of the budget is just a report on current salaries for filled positions. And in order for that to be our starting point for the budget, we make an adjustment there for turnover. Previously, we just contained it in that number without having a separate line for a turnover calculation. But this year, we went ahead and broke out that turnover line and calculated a reduction for turnover based on what's happening with the anticipated number of positions that would be vacated over the course of the next fiscal year and about how long it takes, what the time to fill is. And that calculation takes $734,000 off the current active benefits eligible salaries. These benefits eligible positions are full-time and half-time positions. So some of those, their FTEs listed, and some of those go for positions that work 20 hours a week that are eligible for benefits. Next slide, please. The next line is just for unfilled positions. These are the unfilled positions on April 7th when I pulled the most recent report. These are positions that are counted in our authorized FTEs that were approved in the previous year's budget. A vast majority of these positions are currently in the hiring process. And that amount that's calculated there is based on the estimated salary for the specific positions that were unfilled on 4/7. So what the salary for those positions would be. So it's a pretty close, tight estimate instead of basing it on a total average salary or something like that. Next slide, Cody. We are proposing 3 additional FTEs for fiscal year 22-23. Those FTEs are being requested to staff the Culinary Center at Green Hills, which is slated to open sometime. I can't remember.
Green Hills should be open July or August, and the Culinary Center should be starting to do programming September, October.
Yeah, so we need a couple of positions there, and also to add a staff member to IT to help accommodate the technology needs of adding facilities and changes to service offerings. Many of those things that we adjusted during COVID were technology based, and they require additional support. And the amount there that's calculated is, again, not based on average salary, but based on the estimated salaries for those requested positions. Next slide. This is 2 parts of base pay increase proposal. The first part being a 1.9% pool of current base salaries to fund pay adjustments to attempt to remain competitive in the labor market. Again, the labor market is a little bit wonky at the moment, so we don't want to overcorrect in this market, but we do need to do some work there. However, the determination of how this pool will be allocated will be based on the results of a market compensation analysis that is currently in process. So those market adjustments won't be applied until fall or early winter, once we get those results and they're evaluated and aligned with job descriptions. So that's what that pool of money would be budgeted to make some headway on market adjustments. The second piece there is a pool of approximately 1.25% of current salaries to fund pay adjustments to recognize staff for their performance in this previous fiscal year. Staff currently, employees are currently in the process of getting ready to receive performance evaluations in May and June. Those evaluations and scores are submitted to Human Resources, and that money will be allocated based on those performance evaluation scores. Next slide, Cody. This brings the total proposed benefits eligible staff base pay budget to $20,037,363. This is a $696,975 increase, or about 3.6% over the previous fiscal year. That difference can be attributed to the cost for additional FTEs and the performance and market adjustments to base pay. Next slide. This part of the budget is for part-time staff. This is primarily, say for a handful of people, for part-time public service associates in our branches, and as well as pages in our branches. We do have 2 or 3 part-time substitute delivery drivers here in HQ, and a part-time staff member who assists with the library by mail program. That's contained in this budget. How this works is the customer experience department, so Richie and his team review the staffing needs of each branch and recommend a budget for each location. Each branch manager is responsible for monitoring the budget that's allocated to them and sticking to that and staying under that. This amount is a 4.6% increase over the 21-22 budgeted amount. This increase is to accommodate for pay increases, particularly a minimum wage increase that goes into effect in Missouri on 1/1/23 that takes the minimum wage to $12. It's also meant to accommodate additional locations that are opening. We're coming to the end of a period of time where we've had, 1 or 2 or 3 branches closed at a time, and we're about to enter a season of figuring out what it looks like to have almost all of our doors open. So that's what that increase can be attributed to. Next slide. So that brings the total salaries and wages budget to $25,557,363, which is a 3.8% increase over the 2021 fiscal year budget.
So this is actually a nice pause point before we get into some of the calculated data. And so what I hope you're seeing is that there's not a lot of increase in additional staffing, and there's only, I would argue, marginal increase in salary that is not being driven by either the new minimum wage requirement. In fact, I'd argue that a lot of it is the minimum wage requirement, because even though we talked about it in the hourly, you have to also bump up your salary employees to stay ahead of that. So
and we are doing, we haven't done a market compensation analysis since 2016. So that, that's being conducted. It is comprehensive. It's even more comprehensive than the one we did in 2016. It includes an overhaul of job descriptions. So, rather than even look at just total market data or anecdotal data related to pay, we want to actually see what's happening with the positions that are in the market, and what positions that look like our library positions are paying in the market. So that's why we're going to wait for those results to determine what that will look like.
So the next category is going to be, like I said, calculated, and it's going to involve insurance and medical and vision and that. But Michelle has joined us, according to Cody. So just an FYI. And any questions before we go to the next section?
This is Noelle. I have a question. Just out of curiosity, when we talk about raising the minimum wage based on the state, and I think it said that the state doesn't start until January 1st of 2023. Are we planning to raise those wages prior to then?
Hi, Noelle. Currently, the only staff who are directly tied to minimum wage are our library pages. Their current rate of pay is $11.50. All of our library pages make the same hourly rate, regardless of tenure. So direct tying to that is only for, and that's about 100, I think as of today, maybe 108 staff members. But it is likely, Noelle, though, that we will wait since it is a market adjustment. And that's the plan for applying market adjustments, is to wait until we get that full market compensation analysis.
So the idea would be to wait, Noelle. Yeah.
Okay. I'm just thinking, especially for those people, I mean, that are making $12 an hour in this economy that we're currently in, that the sooner we can alleviate something for them, I would think the better. So I didn't know if it was even, is it even optional to do it before?
No, we can definitely look at doing it earlier because the financial impact of doing it earlier, since it is such a small amount of employees, is minimal.
Right.
And we do have an eye on getting the results of this market compensation analysis applied as quickly as possible, because I agree with you, Noelle, it is for lack of a better word, an overused word, it is unprecedented what's happening in the labor market currently, and then what's happening with inflation. And we are mindful of that for frontline staff. The next step up for staff members above library pages, just as an FYI, is our frontline customer service associates, delivery drivers, and custodians. And the current minimum for those folks is $13.71 an hour. And so those folks will see, some increase when we apply those market adjustments post-study. Those folks will also see, if they have been employed, if they were employed before the 1st of March, I'm gonna make sure I get the date right. My team will come after me if I get the date wrong. If they're employed before the 1st of March, they will be participating in the performance pay increase. So.
Okay. Thank you. Sorry for interrupting.
Yeah, no, it's good.
Noelle, I had a question. What would be your preference if it was to be instituted early? Just curious.
Well, I just think I don't know, in the world that we're in, I just think that $12 an hour for an adult, I mean, for teenagers, that's different, but for adults who are trying to live, I think if we can help them at all, we need to help them sooner rather than later.
I agree, Noelle. And just as an additional point of information, library pages, and I can probably pull it up and look at it today. They tend to be, they are our youngest and our oldest employees.
They're both the youngest and the oldest.
It's almost exactly that. So those are staffed typically by students, and they range in age from currently 15 to I think 80. Wow. 87. So they tend to be retirees and students. So that group isn't necessarily a group that's trying to support a family or a household with those wages. So.
I agree with you, Noel. I think two easy spots to do that increase before the date would be either at the beginning of our fiscal year or the beginning of the calendar year.
Yeah, and actually calendar year will probably coincide with the state mandate, so.
And Noel, when we, if we get through the process here of the committee and the board approving this personnel budget, we want to use that pool of money wisely. So we would definitely look at what the impact would be between, starting it for those folks in, July 1 of 22 or postponing it until later, and see what the financial impact is for cost for the library. I suspect it's de minimis immaterial as far as like out of the total budget. So I don't think it would be, it wouldn't be unusual for us to apply it. We typically apply it at the first of July.
But would not be a game changer.
Thank you, Noel.
Hey, this is Michelle.
Okay, Michelle.
Sorry, I got in late. I just think, I don't think we have a choice, and my opinion or my preference is going to be sooner rather than later. In my opinion, we cut something else and we pay our staff appropriately. I don't think we have an option, and I'd rather cut something somewhere else. I'd rather cut a program. I don't care what we have to cut to make things right salary wise.
I think the good news is I don't think there's going to have to be a choice made like that. I think the choice is just going to have to be made. How soon do we want to do it? And then we can do it. So.
And we will be, there will be an eye on, as we move into evaluating the results of this market analysis and looking at the next 2 to 3 years based on the information and the data that will be provided to us in order to implement pay increases for incumbents based on the analysis of that data. Usually we can't afford to do all of the recommended pay increases within a structure within a single year. But the good news is that the preliminary numbers that I actually got today, the 25 benchmark positions, which is what we've looked at in 2016, I believe in 2011, we are at a 94.4% comp ratio of our current staff average salaries versus the 50th percentile in the market. That's a better position than we've ever been in coming into a compensation study. So that is heartening to know that. So we know that there's work to be done. There's always work to be done, particularly if there's this much room in between. But we want to make sure that I agree with you. Yes, we do need to take care of our staff.
And we'll try to do it as quickly as possible,
Correct.
as responsibly as possible. So.
It's talking about going to minimum wage, though. We're not talking about going above.
Yeah, the minimum wages would be for pages, and if the direction is to implement that July 1, that is totally fine, and it's not going to have an impact on enough of an impact on the total amount of dollars spent to make that an issue. Above that, then all pages make $12. The next level above that, the bottom grade on our graded positions, the minimum on that bottom grade is $13.71. So we could go ahead and take the $11.50 that pages currently make, take that to 12 on July 1st, and that would be fine.
And then what I'd recommend, what staff would recommend, I presume, or suppose, is that we really want to wait to get the full results from the compensation study to try to figure out how we would want to ratchet up those other positions. So.
I'm trying to get a sense from the committee how they feel about that idea before we go on. Rita,
That's right.
And then I'll go to Ron and Ron online.
I guess I'm still confused on some of this, I guess, in a sense where I get we're moving up and we're going up to minimum wage, but a kid can go to McDonald's and make a lot, and I apologize, you may have discussed all this because I was late getting on, but I mean, you go everywhere and it's $15 to $18 an hour that people still can't get employees at that. So if we don't, I don't see where, I mean, I think we have to do better.
Yes, I agree, Michelle. And I think what Jennifer was saying was that we were waiting for the compensation study so that we can do that in a more deliberate and comprehensive way based on the market. We're not really prepared to do that right now. Does that make sense?
It does, but I don't know that we have a choice.
Yeah, I agree with you, Michelle. I mean, we can all see what's happening in the market with particularly with the service industry and retail. The starting wages for those folks. Anybody, the staff that's in this room can testify to that it's been top of mind for me as well. So it's kind of a balance between making those hourly wage increases, but also including there are things for benefits eligible staff that cost the library money as well, that are difficult for people to replace if they go to another employer, such as their low cost health insurance and their pension plan.
I totally get it. I'm just all for, that's where I'm saying, if we have to cut things someplace else to make it right for everyone, and I get this is a big thing and a big ask, but I'm talking everybody across the board. I know it's going to be really expensive, but that's where I'm saying I think we need to really look at all that, and I'm sure the study's doing that, but I guess that's my opinion, and I'll let the next person go.
Thank you, Michelle. So noted. I'm back with Rita, and then I'll go to Ron.
I'm aware that many of you have done a great deal of work on this already, and thank you for your work. It shows that you put a lot of thought and a lot of hours into this. That being said, are we having trouble getting people to come in at minimum wage?
We haven't really been hiring pages in mass for a while. Our COVID, reduced our need for those folks. We are hiring pages for some of those locations that are opening. So we typically don't have issues with filling those positions. But again, that's about 100 positions on our 800 person staff. And, with a very specific, set of circumstances. Set of duties. Above that, so the next level above that, which is, the lowest grade on our wage structure for the rest of staff, the minimum hourly rate that we start at there is $13.71. And I would say that we aren't particularly having, for part-time staff, having that issue in terms of pulling, recruiting folks. And part-time staff are designated part-time. There aren't really benefits except for some very ancillary things. And they're limited to being, 950 hours or less a year. So they're designated part-time positions. Where we are seeing difficulty is any of those grades in the branches that those first three grades in the branches start at $13.71 an hour, $15.08 an hour, and $16 an hour, with the bulk of them being $15.08 an hour. And we have part-time, half-time, and full-time at all of those grades, but pulling full-time to recruit is where we're seeing the most difficulty. So And where we're seeing the most churn and turnover.
That's kind of what I expected.
Yeah, because there's this competitions, like when somebody, when Hobby Lobby says, we're going to pay $18.50, and it's hard to, it's very difficult to convey the total rewards aspect of it. So, as a full-time staff member, you're making this much an hour, but you're also getting this much, towards your health insurance and this much for your pension. But if you're, if you're 25, 30, 35 years old, you can't put your pension in your gas tank, at $4 an hour. And so it's difficult to, talk about, other security benefits in that particular labor market. So yes, it is top of mind. We typically look at somewhere between 80 and 100 positions a year, with the bulk of those being part-time that we would be looking at. And we, for the last 12 months, and what appears to not be letting up, we'll probably be looking at about 135 benefits eligible positions that will be churned up this year. So
They will have turnover.
yeah. And we're not alone. I will say that this isn't unique to the library dilemma that's happening, for sure.
And this isn't an unusual year. We've been working on trying to get our employees up to competitive wages.
Absolutely.
And every time we get there, it moves. So.
Or everyone has to go home for 3 months.
Yeah.
And I will say, I've been doing HR since the 90s, and just almost 20 years of that here at the library. But previous to that was retail, and hiring in the late 90s was difficult to hire for frontline positions. And this is way harder. This is so much competition. And I think that has a lot to do with a lot more services that a lot of places have now, curbside and all the concierge, order pulling and things like that just more people are required to do those additional services, which makes it much more competitive out there.
Mm-hmm. Good question. Ron?
Just a question and a comment. The question is, when do you anticipate this market study to be available to you?
The first review of the what I call, I would say the 5 mile above data, where we'll be making sure that the position descriptions match up. I got that today. So it is our intent to move through the process with senior leadership as quickly as possible. But the goal for my team to have everything aligned is the end of August, which if we are able to meet that goal and everything is evaluated and budget is applied by the senior team, then we would be looking at a September implementation.
Okay, thank you. The comment I have is pretty much mirroring what Michelle said. I think there are a host of reasons that if we were to make the adjustment sooner than later, to me just makes a lot of sense. I think as you mentioned too, there are a host of reasons, and to be competitive, you just have to have the inducement to come here, and part of it is, of course, and not just the satisfaction of being in a library, but also, as I mentioned earlier, to fill up the gas tank. So I would feel that again, sooner than later, and to I think there are some. I want to sound too corny, but I think there are some basic social justice elements here that if a person is providing value, it's only fair that the person gets compensated for that. And to rely on some sense of satisfaction they might have is, of course, important, but not enough. And then, as we've been talking about previously, I think if we're going to try to cast a broader net into different areas to have folks at least consider the library as not only a job, but as a career, to make the compensation element more attractive to them, to give more than just a wink at the opportunities. I think we have a bit of effort to make it more attractive through a more realistic competitive compensation structure. So I
Thank you,
basically,
Ron.
same thing Michelle did, I guess.
No doubt on that, Ron. But the one thing that I'd like to add is something that Jennifer said, used a little bit of jargon, and hopefully you all understood what she was talking about, where she was talking about that on our benchmark positions, we were in the 90th compa ratio. And so there have been times when we've done a preliminary study where we'd look at our benchmark positions and we'd be in the 60th compa ratio.
Mhm.
So what this means is that by comparable work done in our market, that we are setting at 90% as opposed to 60%. That's very, very good. And so to that end, I mean, what it is foreshadowing is that 1.9%, 2% or so may be able to help us considerably get.
Yeah, it'll be a step towards that. And then there will be, as there always is when we do this, because we have positions that have been created that are brand new, swapped out for other positions since the last compensation study that we did. So when we do that, we get pricing information from the market and do our best to make sure that it's, being compensated fairly. We usually see some significant adjustment in one direction or the other to right price those positions. And that 94.4%, of course, there are positions that are tracking above 100% of the 50th percentile in the market, and positions that are tracking below, which then helps us prioritize where we need to distribute those market adjustments.
Well, I think you kind of have some direction from, Yummy on?
Yeah, she's on.
Oh, Yummy, are you on?
I was sure she was on.
Yes, but it takes me a while to reach my mute button. Sorry.
Okay.
Yeah,
welcome to
no.
the meeting. I'd like to
Yeah.
hear from you on this discussion.
Yeah, thank you. I'm sort of in agreement with Michelle and Noelle and all of you probably that I do think also that this has to be done as soon as possible because, we are having trouble. I mean, people have trouble hiring anyone for anything for less than $15 an hour. So yeah, I think it has to be at the top of our agenda.
Okay. I think you have a pretty clear idea of where this committee is.
I think we do. And I've got a couple of good notes on this. So
maybe a combination of one, seeing
Yeah.
if we could do July 1st.
Sure.
And two, looking at what a 1 or 1.3% increase would do to bring us closer.
Sure.
Okay.
We can do that. So what we'd like to do next, so we just talked about salaries. The next part of the budget is to start talking about how we calculate the benefits, which is the other big chunk of the HR and personnel bucket.
So this first slide that Cody pulled up for us just talks about some of the calculated line items there. Excuse me, pardon me. Like Social Security and Medicare, that amount is just calculated based on that total wages and benefits salary, with that salary amount being reduced by $675,000 to account for contributions, tax-free contributions that staff make to the flexible spending plans and to pay for insurance premiums. We are self-insured for unemployment, so we don't pay, which is typically has been a money savings for the library over the years. We don't pay an unemployment insurance premium. We pay, the costs as they come up. Typically the costs that we have for unemployment are related to employees who lose their job at a subsequent employer that is not us.
Yeah.
Or this is their second job or that sort of thing. And so they are not necessarily all the way unemployed, they're underemployed. And so we may have a small responsibility calculated by the state. So that's typically what we spend that money on. I don't see us needing more than $15,000. And tuition reimbursement is capped at $30,000. That benefit reimburses benefits eligible staff for up to 50% of their tuition for classes if they're in pursuit of a Master of Library Science degree. or other approved degree or certification program that's directly related to their library work. Next slide, Cody.
Before you go on, that 30,000, have we reached that limit occasionally where people may not be able to apply, or is that pretty adequate?
It's so far it's been adequate. I don't think that we are turning folks away. I'll verify that with Juan's office, but it hasn't. We haven't been turning folks away.
This would be a good year to look at it since tuition's going up everywhere.
It is. And we do have it, and I can look and see where we've been this past year since it's administered by finance. I'm not always completely plugged into it, but we do have the amount of tuition, that we will reimburse is indexed to the MU's cost per hour.
They just went up.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's what we use as an index in terms of a maximum amount we would reimburse a staff member for classes. So,
thank you.
Next slide. This line is for the retirement funding for benefits eligible staff. Missouri MCPL participates in the Missouri Local Government Employees Retirement System. We are fortunate that Loggers is a financially stable retirement plan that is 95.6% pre-funded, which is almost an unheard of pre-funded state level in the pension world. So we are lucky in that way. It's a very well-run pension plan. So in addition to providing employees with a path to a dignified exit from the workplace when they get to that point, Loggers stabilizes our local economy. So in our library service area in Jackson, Platte, and Clay counties last year, or in 2020, Loggers paid $46.8 million in benefits in our counties, and that is in our library service area. So it's Jackson County minus the Kansas City Public Service area. So literally, those folks, live in our library service area, own property, and pay taxes in our library service area. It is that economic impact cannot be overstated.
And the conventional wisdom is that people retiring, they all move to Florida or Arizona or something like that. But people who work in local government tend to stay in the communities where they worked. And so
overall 93 point something, I think it's right at 93% of benefits paid out by Loggers each year remain in the state of Missouri.
In the state of Missouri, yeah.
The Loggers contribution rate is set by the plan actuaries at Loggers. The rate for this fiscal year set for MCPL is 17.2% of eligible wages. That is a 0.4% rate reduction from 2021-22, which is good. So it made the increase not be as much as salaries are increasing. Was still a very robust plan. That amount that's calculated for the budget is calculated as the percentage of proposed benefits eligible salaries minus an adjustment that is calculated based on the 6-month waiting period where we do not pay contributions for employees that are newly enrolled into the plan. The next slide. We're going to talk about one line on the budget, but there is a supplemental document, and we'll go through the different pieces of that because medical insurance funding is such a interesting, challenging piece of the budget to review. It is, but the time that we spend doing it has paid off for us since we went to being a self-insured plan for claims expenses in 2011. We have been able to keep our costs in check and not having our plan costs track in the same way that other people in the market have. We've been able to go several years, 2 different times during that time period with no increase to premiums that employees pay for dependent coverage, and only 1 plan design change during that 10-year period. So I feel I feel proud of our staff and the way that they have responsibly used their healthcare benefits, and that we we've engaged with Blue Cross and all the things that they offer to help us with those plan costs. The amount that's on that budget line is funding that is transferred to the health insurance fund, which is on a separate page of the budget. It's to cover claims costs as well as administrative fees, network access fees, and then there's stop loss coverage. So once an individual reaches the deductible amount, which is currently $75,000 in claims for a calendar year, then we do have stop loss coverage that begins to pick up 100% of their claims in addition to that. So that helps to insulate MCPL from someone who may be in an unexpected catastrophic health situation. Right now, the MCPL health insurance fund balance is above the desired maximum that's indicated by internal policy. So this amount on the budget is reduced to with the intention of using more dollars from the health insurance fund to draw that down. We will look at how the plan is performing and what the fund looks like as we enter negotiations for open enrollment mid-fiscal year for 1/1/23, and make any adjustments to plan design or contributions at that time while while tracking with that budgeted amount. On the next slide, we'll go through some of these boring numbers real quick, but just so you can understand where the numbers come from. The first one here are the cost projections. We engage with locked-in benefits consultants to provide actuarial analysis of our health plan in order to help us project future costs. This cost projection for the fiscal year 22-23 was provided on 3/8 with the latest claims data. And they use a Monte Carlo analysis as well as very specific trend amounts. They have 10 years worth of MCPL claims history. So they're able to get a really good track on trend for us, and these projections get better year over year. So that amount that was calculated rounds up to $4,225,000. The next slide talks about where we would get that $4,225,000 from. So $420,000 of that would come from employee contributions. Those employer contributions are for staff members who pay for coverage for their dependents, so their family, their children, their spouse or partner. They pay that portion of the contribution towards that health insurance coverage. So with subtracting that employee contribution amount, the amount that MCPL is projected to need to provide is $3,805,000. The intent is to provide $3,204,000 of that from the budget, which is what you see on that very looks like just a normal line that comes from all of this information. So that's the amount you see there, with the intent of the $601,000 of it coming from drawing down the balance of the health insurance fund. And on the next slide,
Hey, Jennifer, Ron had a quick question he put in the chat.
Sure, sorry.
He asked, up to the $75,000 stop loss, what's the employee's deductible / copay they'd be stuck with?
$1,250 is, and we still have copays. That doesn't, we still have copays for doctor's office visits. We try to really remove barriers to people getting preventive care. So we still have copays, straight up copays for doctor's office visits, specialist visits, and prescription drugs. Those copays actually apply towards deductible. So yeah, I would lay our plan design up against practically anyone's in terms of the burden, the financial burden on staff who are on our health plan.
And that $1,250 out-of-pocket maximum was one of the design changes that we made in the last 10 years. And it's always been something that we focused on to try to see if we could get that out-of-pocket maximum back down. But they're just
Well, yeah, the deductible is $1,250, Ron, and to speak to that total amount you're talking about, the exposure for an individual staff member,
thank you.
that out-of-pocket maximum is $3,750.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah,
So
sorry.
if they have $500,000 in claims, their maximum exposure is $3,750.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I was just contemplating something like a terribly distressful medical event, and weathering through that, and then also facing up a huge copay deductible that's stuck with us.
Yeah.
Be kind of harsh, but
and that's why when we look at it, we really try to keep in mind, every piece of it, the plan design, the access to preventive care, the access to prescription drugs. We have avoided going to different kinds of cost sharing, that are out there in lieu of copays, because flat rate copays tend to be simpler for employees to manage costs, be able to manage those costs. So, because we want, if someone's got high blood pressure, we want them to be able to get their high blood pressure medicine, and we want them to see their primary care doctor, and we don't want that to be cost prohibitive, because that matters for so many reasons. So yeah, we definitely keep an eye on that.
good. Thank you.
So the next slide, what is the next slide? Oh, the next slide is just this is just the calculation for that health insurance fund, just to see what that projection looks like starting at the beginning of the fiscal year, the projected balance on this June 30th here in 3 months is $1,512,000. We add the funding that we talked about from the previous page for 22-23, which is some of that funding coming from employees and some of it coming from the library budget. The projected costs are there that were on that cost projection page, which leaves us with a projected balance at the end of 22-23 of $911,447. The minimum that policy directs us to have in the health insurance fund is $856,973, and the maximum is $1,394,663. So we project that we will be well within that range at the end of 22-23.
And you can keep your eye on this every month. Quan actually puts this balance sheet up every month.
It does have its own separate, it has its own separate page and its own separate really internal budget to that. So that's where the number on the personnel budget comes from, is funding that fund. The next couple of lines, next slide, Cody. The next couple of lines are for dental and vision insurance. We do have we have had a multi-year rate guarantee with Cigna Dental and Vision that does end at the end of 2022. So mid-year here, we will be marketing our group dental and vision insurance. Inflation is impacting almost everything out there, so I expect that it will impact this, but a competitive process where we go out to market typically keeps the cost increases of dental and vision insurance in check. So it would surprise me if we saw something that would cause us to exceed this budget when we are planning for in October for 2023. However, we will do all the things that we normally do when we go to market, and we look at these costs, and if we need to adjust our plan design in order to meet budget, we will do that. So we go ahead and go to the next slide. These are just the amounts that are calculated for ancillary insurance. So that is for full-time employees, that's long-term disability insurance. Insurance to help employees replace their income if they're off work for longer than 3 months. That premium is calculated based on the monthly salaries, a percentage of the monthly salaries for active employees. We also provide life insurance for full-time employees that's equal to the amount of their annual salary, as well as accidental death insurance that doubles that amount. That premium is calculated based on the annualized salary of active employees. There will be a change to this calculation for 2023, for 1/1/2023, because we do have a premium rate guarantee until 1/1 of 2024. The next line, that's our employee assistance program cost. There's a slight increase due to an expected change of provider. If you have experience with an EAP, you absolutely know what they are, but we have high expectations for our employee assistance program. We want because it provides vital counseling, referral services to help staff navigate their personal issues and help them have better work-life harmony. They also help us. They help managers, human resources with resources for training, coaching, and responding to crises. That amount is based on how many active employees we have, average active employees we have at the beginning of the contract. And in our experience, it's worth every penny when we have an excellent provider. So
This was, I do want to say that this was really critical during the initial period of the pandemic and the stay-at-home orders and all of that. I mean, we were using this a lot for people to just kind of figure out what the heck was going on, you know, and it was.
And yeah, we were able to use those resources as well to provide requested support for managers and leaders that were asking for help supporting their staff, particularly when we got about 9 months into the pandemic, when things were still looking a little bit bleak, and there was a lot of fatigue out there related to just trying to keep everybody's head above water. So it became even more clear that this is a vital resource that we need.
And it's available to all employees.
This is available to all employees, benefits eligible part-time staff, and the members of their household. And the way we have it set up is that an employee or a member of their household can contact the AAP and get up to 6 sessions of counseling per event or incident. So this is in addition to any services that are provided for staff that are on the health plan, because there are services available in addition to there as well. And also there are things that are provided on an EAP that typically aren't covered by the health plan, like family counseling, marital counseling, that sort of thing. They also provide financial planning referrals, legal referrals, and it can even assist with, elder care referrals, child care referrals, and things like that. So again, a lot of bang for our buck with the correct, with the right provider. Next slide. This slide is just a summary of the Human Resources Administration account, part of the account that we use to fund different things. And so I've listed them here, but I'm just going to go through them slide by slide real quick, just to kind of explain what they are, so that there's an understanding of what we spend this, $167,000 on. Next slide, Cody. The first thing those first 2 lines are it's money that we spend on conducting background checks for all new employees, volunteers, and new program presenters that are 18 and older. There's an increase on that line due to an expected increase in turnover, causing us to have more new hires, and also the uptick in programming restart that will need us to background check more presenters. We do maintain a 457 retirement savings plan for all staff. We don't match funds since we contribute a significant amount to the loggers pension plan, but we do.
So just real quickly, a 457 is like a 403B or a 401K.
It is not a 403B.
It's not a 403B, but
we'd like more details on that.
It's similar to that. It's a voluntary.
We can sit down and discuss what happened. But it is all the way right. It is a 457 plan for all staff. We use Empower Retirement. They have been a fantastic provider. So these are the admin fees for that plan. The reduction that you see there, is for a correction. The investment management fees that we pay for the required monitoring of investments in an employer's retirement fund, we pay that out of the professional fees budget on the operating side, and that was listed here last year. So that has been moved to where it properly goes. We also pay the administrative fees for the healthcare and dependent care flexible spending accounts for benefits eligible employees. It comes to somewhere between $500 and $600 a month, but we recoup some of that when you look at the reduction that we get from that we have what we pay in FICA and Social Security and Medicare. So next slide. The next slide covers mandatory compliance training, the best practices for compliance and risk mitigation, which is the bread and butter and foundation of HR work. Dictate that employers offer adequate baseline training for employees to educate them about harassment, discrimination, and other workplace issues that have the potential to impact library resources and community reputation. The current training that we offer includes courses that instruct staff and leaders on preventing workplace harassment, discrimination, and bullying, avoiding retaliation, creating a positive work environment, drugs and alcohol in the workplace, and active shooter training. The increase that you see here is due to a change in training content providers. Our former provider was no longer updating their product. We've been with them for several years. They were kind of entering the public entity market at that time, gave us a bargain basement deal at the time. And that content was adequate, but it is also still the same content that it has been. There hasn't been any, there hasn't been any upgrade to the content. And so we did go, my staff did go and do an RFQ, to look for a training content provider. And we are really happy with the one that was selected in terms of the content upgrade that we were able to provide for staff.
Hey, this is Noelle. Just curious, mandatory compliance training, mandatory, like the library requires it or the state or?
The library requires it for all staff. And it, after, I would say at this point, decades of employment law practice, whenever there's a complaint related to, harassment or discrimination or other things in the workplace, the very first question that is posed to an employer by, the EEOC or the Missouri Human Rights Commission, or hopefully not an attorney, but potentially,
Hopefully
is
not.
did you provide training on this thing for your staff? And because often those things that take place, like harassment, discrimination, those things more often take place between peers and colleagues. And, we want people to report that so we can intervene, so we can help with rehabilitation, restoration, all of those things. But sometimes they don't. And so one of the things that employers provide is that training, so that when they're asked, like, why didn't you do anything about this thing? And we're like, well, they didn't report it. And then they say, well, did you provide training? And we can say, yes, we absolutely provided training. We also, during this process, this annual process, we do push and folks, internally to take time to review the most updated version of emergency and security procedures, the most updated version of the employee handbook, and for leaders, the most updated version of the supervisor handbook. So it really is kind of a comprehensive. We select 90 days. We're like right in the middle of it right now, and really get people focusing on resetting those expectations for what's good and allowed in the workplace.
But Noelle, to your question, we are doing this essentially as risk mitigation and to make sure that we are a good place, a good employer. Jefferson City is not requiring us to do this.
Yeah, there isn't any, but I would hate to to get hung up on that first question, right, if there was a complaint filed, right, for sure.
No, I was just wondering, most of this, like in the school district, most of this we have to do.
Yeah.
So I'm not really surprised by that. My next question is, you talked about the provider who provides this. How do we how is that determined who provides this training?
We selected Treliant after doing a request for quote process through our website and we reached out and asked for people to respond to that who had already, contacted us and also looking for providers that other organizations have used. So
Okay.
yeah, so Treliant was selected not just based on the quality of their content, the breadth of their content, but also my staff, I say we, my staff contacted several of their different public library and public entity clients and got excellent references for Treliant.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Uh-huh. Okay, next slide, Cody. That next line is training, development, and consulting for managers. This is different than just having an open consultant contract to provide an audit or a service. This is these funds we access to provide training and coaching for managers to help all managers improve their leadership skills and support them in creating effective teams. Previously, we have used these funds on class training on effective interviewing and hiring, unconscious bias, managing difficult employees, emotional intelligence, and moving from peer to supervisor, which is a challenge for folks, as it should be. But people are appreciate having that support. We also use these funds to pay for any kind of targeted coaching for improvement for managers who need some more individualized performance intervention. That's the best way I know how to say that. It often is good to have access to an outside source that can come in and work one-on-one with a manager that may be struggling with some sort of leadership soft skill and helping them to, solidify building a team and that sort of thing. But that's usually something that may happen once or twice a year. So that's what we use these funds for. Next slide. That recruiting, onboarding, and employee engagement piece, that includes, and that's the next two lines, that includes funds for new hire orientation materials. So, we provide, MCPL t-shirts for new hires. We in new hire orientation, there's, prizes for new hire orientation bingo, and and also all of the materials that are required, for someone who's a new hire. This also includes advertising expenses for available positions. We are able to recruit for many of our positions using a lot of free resources, but when we get into some of the specialty positions, it often requires us to spend money to throw our net out in different places where we can get a good amount of quality candidates. We have a longstanding, well-run exceptionality employee recognition program run by a team who these activities are focused on acknowledging excellence, recognizing achievement, and team building. So there are multiple things that fall under that budget. Everything from, small recognition, employee, pizza party to recognize a thing that happened. Our employee wellness budget is here. And also funds for recognizing, we just did recognizing staff for National Library Workers Day. This budget also covers our service tenure awards. So we have awards that we provide for staff who reach a certain level of years of service. And then there's a small amount in here for software that we use to help us communicate with staff efficiently and effectively. So that's what is in this budget. The next slide. This is a new line item, so we're going to see how this goes. These are things that we've spent money on before, but we wanted to have a line item so that we could better be more transparent and better track how this works. But these are funds that would be designated to provide items, to accommodate disabilities or to help to avoid a workplace injury or illness. Some of those examples of things that we have purchased in the past are like air purifiers. Sometimes there may be a closed area in a department or branch where, the the scents that come from the public or air fresheners or any number of things may be aggravating to someone's allergies or asthma, and just a simple air purifier can improve that situation. Wrist braces or wrist rests to help folks that spend a lot of time on the computer that are experiencing, that may be at the beginning of experiencing symptoms. Ancillary technology equipment that's not included in the tech budget. So, on the kind of ad hoc, being able to replace someone's mouse or a keyboard or something like that to assist them. And then items for comfort kits that we deploy for nursing moms who need to pump at work. We are required to provide a non-bathroom space that is private for our nursing moms who need to pump at every location. And we have Capital Improvement Project has provided us with a lot more space to be able to do that, which has been a blessing. We still have some small locations that we deploy a kit to that includes, privacy screen, comfort items and several things, for being able to, clean up and all of those things that we provide for those nursing moms. These things are taken care of by Talisha, who is our leave and accommodation specialist on my team. And so she takes care of those on a case-by-case basis. And they go through Talisha. So it's also with an eye towards, protecting employee privacy, to the greatest extent that is possible. So, and she's fantastic at that. So the next slide. Can you believe we're at the end?
We're at the bottom.
We are at the bottom of the page. So the total proposed pay and benefits budget for fiscal year 22-23 is $34,409,459. The projected revenue for this fiscal year is $57,320,000. So this budget is 60.03% of projected revenue, which is about $17,000 over that flat 60%. This is a 3.4% increase over the previous year. Now, last slide. We're at the end. We made it.
Yeah, and the intent was not to overwhelm you. It was overwhelming, I understand. But part of this was to also try to get you all better informed about the different lines and what goes into creating those lines and what staff thinks about when recommending those lines. So.
Thank you. Any questions? Anybody online have a question? Wow. Okay. Anyone?
So there's a history. Again, this isn't written anywhere. It's not. But the custom at Mid-Continent is that as we bring forward these sections of the budget and the committees look at them in detail, you all ask questions and hopefully feel comfortable and make some suggestions to us. And then potentially, if you're comfortable in doing so, vote to recommend this to the full board. Now, the way that this works in the budgeting cycle is that this recommendation be made to the full board at the April meeting. The other committees, the technology committee and the building committee, that's the other two big ones, really. Would also take a look at their budget lines, and then at May, the finance committee would get a first draft of the budget. But the idea is that if you're generally endorsing this, that helps us. That kind of helps us break the rest of the budget in line. And it's not the last time. It's not the last time that we'll ever see any of these things. Clearly, it's just going to be fed into the draft budget. The draft budget still has an opportunity to be edited between when it becomes draft budget and final budget. So it just kind of gives staff direction so that it can help, so we can help work on this is 60%, help work on the other 40% of the budget.
And that other typically our money spent on collections has been higher than the national average for libraries of our size.
Correct. It's usually around 22% of that remainder is spent on library collections and services, and 18% for other operations and overhead.
All right, then I would entertain a motion. A motion to approve the recommendation of the budget presented to the full board of the personnel components of the proposed 22-23 budget.
Okay, so we need someone to say it again. Sorry. Do we have to approve it now or approve going forward?
Yeah, what it is this is saying that approval of this is saying that we're in general agreement of the direction of what's presented. As Steve mentioned, this is not the last time we're looking at it, but this would be also fed into the full budget. The full board would also have a chance to look at it. The finance committee would also have a chance to look at it, and then come June, we will approve the full budget with all this. So this is not the last time this piece would look at it, but it gives our staff time and direction to proceed with the other 40% of the budget items.
Okay. I'll be happy to make that motion, but not quite sure how to phrase it.
Well, it's up on the screen.
Yeah, we have a draft. So Noel, the way we have it drafted is approval of the recommendations to the full board.
Adoption of the personnel components of the proposed.
proposal.
Okay,
Yes. Mhm.
okay. So I move that we do that.
Okay.
Thank you, Noel.
I'll second it.
Thanks,
And Rita
Rita.
seconded. All right.
Nothing
Any
like cheating, right?
We're always well prepared as a board here, yeah. If no further discussion, then all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any
Aye.
opposed? Any opposed? Any abstain? Okay,
Next
item
is
the new
visitor comment.
visitor comments.
Ellie, are you aware of any visitor comments?
No, we did not get any.
Okay, great.
Okay,
So then, yeah,
next up is
other business staff. I'm not aware of any other business. Do you know of anything, Susan?
no other business. And after that is
To adjourn?
adjourn. I'll take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Rita's first out of the gate on that one. Do I have a
I
second?
wasn't gonna wait. Have to catch
Second.
Thank you.
Who's that?
Michelle.
Michelle. Okay, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
I assume there's no opposed.